And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
Woo! Welcome in, everybody. Big day for Brian Kelly and the LSU Football Tigers hitting up in the portal. LSU now has 7 players committed from the portal, and I think that a lot of your anxiety and tension probably has gone down a good bit if you're an LSU fan, because Tigers looking good, arguably the number 1 class in the portal. Join with me, as always, each and every Monday at 8 p.m. is publisher of LSU Country on SI.com. That is Zach Nagy. Zach, what's going on, man?
Trying to relax for a second, get to talk some ball with you, and trying to decompress after another busy day of the portal, man. It's been a crazy 72, 84-hour stretch, but can't be anything but impressed with what Brian Kelly and company are doing. They're dominating the portal, filling positions in need, and have a lot more in store coming. So it's been a very beneficial last couple of days for the program, and I'm excited to see what they have in store for the future.
Is your fantasy football team's playoff hopes, or at least one of them, on the line tonight in this Monday night football game? Two of them.
I got 2 that we'll see what happens tonight. Need some stuff from Jetta's. We'll see what he can do.
Well, he's already got a TD.
2 of the 5 are looking okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I forgot to set my starters last week. First time I've ever done that, like ever. And yeah, I'm down to Darnold. Darnold has to get 20 points for me. So he's got 1 already. Shout out Justin Jefferson, scored his touchdown. Yep. Gave a shout out to Randy Moss, who of course publicly announced his cancer diagnosis this week. So good on him for giving the GOAT some love. Is it pretty consensus that Randy Moss is the GOAT wide receiver in the NFL? I guess
him, Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice probably. Yeah, but I still, Jerry Rice is probably the best complete receiver, but man, Moss was a freak.
Yeah, agreed.
God, he was a freak. Anyways, guys, tonight's show is presented by Celebrity Theaters, guys. They make everything we do possible each and every year here on the LSU Football Fix. And remember, they are Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater with locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston. Of course, because they are locally owned and operated, you are guaranteed to see a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology, the largest arcade in Baton Rouge featuring over 50 games, and of course, a bar featuring beer, wine, frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats, and the Dolby Atmos 3D sound system. All right. I want to ask your opinion on what I thought was a pretty big news item this weekend. Brian Kelly announced that he will do a $1 million match to the NIL collective. And of course, I'd be shocked if LSU doesn't collect that $1 million. So basically, Brian Kelly's saying, I'm giving $1 million and hoping to generate some extra buzz there. Big deal, no big deal. Does that speak anything to you?
Yeah, I think that's a massive deal. I think it's kind of the saying, put your money where your mouth is. He keeps talking about being aggressive and continuing to work through the high school ranks, of course, but also doing the same in the transfer portal. And in order to be very aggressive in the portal, you have to have an open checkbook. And we're seeing him put $1 million in the pool, hopefully, obviously. Like you said, more than likely, yes, you'll put $1 million in the pot. And it's a big deal to me. You've only seen maybe 2-3 coaches openly do that at this point in time now. So it's a big deal to me, and it shows that Brian Kelly's all in here. He's going to do all he can to develop a championship-level roster. It starts with relationships, but it also ends with having the ability to fund the players, because it's not all about relationships anymore. So it's a big deal. I love it. I think it shows how much he's willing to kind of put into this program in order to get the biggest results he can.
And you know what it speaks to me is there's a contingent of people who genuinely believe that Brian Kelly left to take a big paycheck, took all the guaranteed money, and is kind of checked out. And
now, if you could do this, I saw a question in the chat. Could you explain how he's not giving it necessarily like to the collective. He's giving it to TAF.
Yeah, he's giving it to TAF. That's
Can you
correct.
explain that a little bit better for everybody?
Well, and look, I could pull up the press release and provide all the exact verbiage and details, but essentially, yes, the donation's going through TAF, and there is certain regulation and rules that it prohibits, or not prohibits. I'm trying to think of the proper word here. Limits what a coach can do. Yeah. Right. I'm going to see if I can pull the exact verbiage since he's asking it. Here we go. He spoke with the media Friday. Oh no, I don't have the press release. It's just the press conference. Anyways, yes, it's going through TAF is the short answer here. But of course, when it comes to these financial moves and stuff like that, there's a lot of legal jargon that goes with it. Long story short, he's committing it to provide to LSU to help LSU get better athletes one way or another. Right. And here's the argument that I have. I think it shows that he does have a strong commitment to wanting to win and win big at LSU. Because if he were the guy who's just here to collect a paycheck and that's that, there's no one obligating him. There's nobody throwing him under the bus and accusing him of wrongdoing if he doesn't throw his own personal money at LSU. Maybe there's a few guys, but I mean, ultimately, when you're contracted to a school, your salary is your salary. So to put $1 million of your own money back into being successful, I think that it sends a message, in my opinion. And I don't think it's necessarily a small message. Speaking of the Bayou Collective's tradition, the Bayou Traditions Collective, did y'all know that TigerBait has partnered with the Bayou Traditions Collective? You missed this last week, Zach. Did you?
I was about to say, I'm excited for this. Let's see it.
Did you catch any of this? We have now partnered with the Bayou Traditions Collective to help raise awareness for how fans can help provide NIL opportunities to selected student athletes at LSU. All contributors who support the Bayou Traditions using the options, by the way, linked in this video. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description. You can visit it. It's BayouTraditionsCollective.com. Or if you're watching on the TigerBait website, the link is there where you can click it as well. You should be able to go in there. Remember, every $1,000 contributed is going to give you 4 TAF points. So these points will count towards your lifetime philanthropic total if you are a TAF donor already. Donating is simple as visiting the link in the description of this video. Select the fund you would like to contribute to, whether that be the Livy Dunn Fund, contributing to female athletes around campus, football, baseball, whatever it may be. Just select the fund, make your donation, enter your payment. Well, you can use a bank account or credit card. And now I'm told they have recurring payments that they've set back up. They had it a while back ago, and it wasn't a very popular option. But by popular demand through many venues, the grassroots efforts has been tremendous, by the way, here of recent. And I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, because I'm going to put it in perspective to you how things actually get done mathematically with these collectives. But it's been really good to see the fans wake up energized and give support back to the school ever since Brian Kelly's, the signing day press conference. So it's been good support. Now, talking grassroots efforts, I'll tell you this. It still is going to be the lion's share of how you get great players to LSU is going to be your big time donors, right? That's just the way any major public fundraising works. Everybody likes to talk about the number of, 100,000 in Tiger Stadium. If half of those donate $100 and they start doing all this math, and it's like, well, that's $5 million a year. Look, from what I understand, no collective actually gets 10,000 donors. Like I'm told Ole Miss probably has one of the better ones at about 8,000. And a lot of that is Austin Thomas, by the way, who did work to build the Grove Collective, who is now at LSU and doing some really good work at LSU. But, it's still, you think about that. Let's say you get 5,000 grassroots donors and they're donating 100 apiece, right? You do your math and that's $500K. That's a pretty good player in the portal. It's just not a pretty good roster. You get what I mean? So that's kind of the way to do it. But look, overall, I think fans raising awareness about the collective, social media, telling people, encouraging people, making it more normal. Oh yeah, I donate to the NIL collective. I think that has influence on these big donors as well.
I think so too. I think it just shows like the collective buy-in by the entire fan base. Like you said, your big donors are going to be the ones that help out for the most part to get these big fish. But at the same time, it gives LSU fans something to feel good about. It gives them the sense of kind of feeling like they've helped the team in a way is the best way that I could put it. So it's nice to see people even putting up 10, 20, 50, 100, however much they can, and putting it on social media. It's nice. There's been a big buy-in from the fan base ever since Brian Kelly had that National Signing Day press conference, and it's been pleasant to see. And obviously, a lot of these little donations haven't skyrocketed the portal of what they're doing right now, but in the long run, it can certainly help with that 2026 recruiting class.
In a big way. And there's some scuttlebutt, by the way, as to what does the future of collectives look, because there's going to be new legislation coming this summer. I'm going to tell you this, all the money in the collectives are going to be used to get athletes to your school. So there's certainly a big push to give money in a big way right now. So anyways, congrats to Brian Kelly for making a big donation. All right. I want to bring up something. Maybe I'm stirring the pot a little bit here, but I remember talking to people about the portal and how much pressure I thought that was going to be on Brian Kelly. I think this was it after the OU game, or probably would have been Vanderbilt game, where I'm talking about Brian Kelly and the pressure. I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure to make the playoffs this year. And that was why it was my guess that they would be aggressive in going into the portal, because I don't think I think fan support means more than it's ever meant. And I think that if fans feel like their dollars are going to be wasted because the head coach isn't good enough, I think that's going to show up in your player funding, right? But people were saying, oh, Preston, that's just, narrative pushing. I'm just going to tell you, everything that's transpired since that has fit that quote narrative. All right. LSU has brought in 7 players in the portal. Zach, do you know how many of them are top 100 portal players?
I believe 5.
5 top 100 players. More than anybody else in the country, by the way. No one else has more than 4. So right now, LSU has arguably the number 1 portal class. I looked at it. If you had to guess, how many did they do last year in the portal? Top 100 players.
I don't think it was even any. Unless it was CJ Daniels, who was at that bottom tier. I think he was like 101 or 105. So
100th.
Yeah.
And by the way, the number does probably fluctuate. So at one point, probably he was outside or whatever. Then guys pulled their name out of the hat, whatever. Okay. But yeah, 100. You got 1, and it was the last one in that grading criteria. So this class mops the floor with the class that they brought in a year ago. In 2022, I think most people wouldn't argue you that your 2022 class was your best portal class you've brought in at LSU, right? Of course, that was a team that desperately needed it, 39 scholarship players. I'm hoping to get to the point where I never have to utter that phrase again, but
right.
Probably it will be something as long as BK's the head coach. You got 7. Granted, that's when you finished. So I think LSU's got a few more top 100 guys on the board still. So anyways, rundown for tonight is talking about LSU in the portal. We're going to talk about the guys they got in. We're going to talk about the guys they might have coming in. I think, Zach, you've got some names prepared for us, don't you?
Yeah, look, I mean, this portal haul has been fantastic so far. 7 players to this point is tremendous. It's probably the most of most SEC programs. Like you said, you got top 5 or 5 of the top 100 guys. So you got a haul so far, and these are immediate impact guys. 5, 6 of them really competed in SEC schools. You went and got a Big Ten starter. You went and got an SEC quarterback who started as a true freshman to be the heir to Garrett Nussmeier. So there's a lot of pieces here that are kind of unraveling in a positive way for this team. And then, look, 7 is maybe halfway done. you're looking at a program that's really going to continue to get double-digit portal guys, and it's going to come in the trenches in your next body, hopefully, in Braylon Moore. He's a Virginia Tech offensive lineman, and the goal here is to get him to shut his process down, commit to LSU, and give you a true starting center for next season to where you can ultimately slide DJ Chester back to that natural position of guard. You lose 4 starters from this season in Garrett Dellinger, Miles Frazier, Emory Jones, and Will Campbell. So your only returning piece is DJ Chester, who, whether we want to say it or not, was your weakest link on this team. So if you can put him at that starting guard spot, slide in a true center, you're going to put yourself in a really good position in the trenches next season. So the goal here would be that for them to shut down Braylon Moore and get him to commit to the program. He's been on campus already. He's visited. We'll see what he can ultimately do, but that's a fantastic piece if you can get him to go public with a decision. Michigan State's been pushing for him. Other programs have as well, but LSU's positioned themselves really well. And then the name that everybody wants to hear about is Nick Anderson, right? 6'4" receiver out of Oklahoma. This is a guy who spent 3 seasons in Norman before entering his name in the portal, and this is your guy. This is a guy who's a tremendous get. He broke the record for receptions, touchdowns as a freshman at Oklahoma. Now he enters the portal, and it gives you an opportunity to go and get a true wide receiver 1. So we'll see what we can ultimately get from Nick Anderson. Again, just like Braylon Moore, it seems like LSU's positioned themselves well. We'll see when he goes public, if he goes public. But you got some heavy hitters going in there for Nick Anderson, and we'll see what ultimately happens for both of those guys.
Was it tough focusing as my wife?
It was very tough focusing.
Yeah, Alumni Hall hooked us up with these new purple and gold Santa hats for Christmas. So my wife went and picked some up before the show. I didn't have enough time to get it, but I was like, all right, I'll pop that on while he's talking here. All right. I think so. Braylon Moore is a true center, and I think that's a big deal. It is tougher to find a true center than it used to be because, now guys put all their best offensive linemen at offensive tackle for the most part. And it's
hard. Sorry to cut you off, but it's hard to evaluate interior offensive linemen. It's such a challenge. And you have a guy who has ACC experience now, who's interested in LSU, has visited. The goal is to get Braylon Moore to shut down his recruitment and go public with a decision. We'll see what happens, but that's a huge, huge get if you can go and get somebody in the trenches. That is a tremendous, tremendous piece. And you and I talked a little bit about it before we hopped on and went live, that there are some bodies now that they're looking at, but don't discount the spring window as well. Like, this is not just a one-time portal window. You got 2 of them to work with. So we'll see what they ultimately do, but Braylon Moore is definitely a guy for LSU fans to keep tabs on.
And Nick Anderson, and from what I'm understanding, there's a lot of confidence on LSU's side that both those guys, by the way, both would be top 100 players in the country in the portal. So, I mean, big time commits coming in. I'm hearing that at this point, it's more so like there's a lot of like last second verbiage in these NIL deals. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt from what I understand. And I have a lot of confidence that both those guys end up as Tigers. And they're going to keep on looking out there because they just hosted Tafiq Bayard today, the safety out of South Florida, right? And we'll see how that goes. Someone brought up a good comment here I'm going to put up. Now, look, if I say his name wrong, I apologize. I have only seen it written, but Cider Mitchell.
That's why I'm glad you said the safety out of South Florida. I was gonna butcher that name.
Tafiq Bayard. But it's probably I'm probably pronouncing it correctly. I'm just like phonetically doing it off. It's probably like Tafiq Bayard, and I'm sitting here all uncomfortable with it. But Cider Mitchell, really good defensive tackle out of Texas, of course, recruited by Bo Davis there for Texas. He just entered the portal a few hours ago. So obviously LSU's defensive tackle depth is a lot better than it was a year ago. But I think that's a guy. I'm not gonna say it's like a need, but I don't think you push him away.
You don't pass up bodies like that. And I feel like a player like Mitchell is kind of why it's so important nowadays it's okay to be the first loser. It's okay to get in second place in recruiting battles with this new era of the transfer portal. You look at a guy like Corey Raymond went out and got Jakeem Jackson, a guy that he recruited from Florida, brought him here. Bo Davis with Mitchell. I mean, it's okay to get second in recruitments now as long as you continue to keep those relationships alive. a unique era we're in, Preston. It's such a weird time.
Dwayne D. What a funny comment here. Les Miles said, I'll make it easy. Recruit
Oh
all offensive guards and stick them at every position across the line to run block. It's kind of true, though. Zach, do you remember Ethan Posick? All right, Ethan Posick was probably
before my
one
time.
Guy who probably should have been trained to play right tackle that Les Miles recruited, and he stuck him at center. We're talking like a 6'6" guy playing center. Anyways, he was really smart, by the way. They called him Mensa. He was very smart. Shout out Ethan Posick. Poor victim of the Les Miles saga here. But I'll say this, he did play many years in the NFL. I just think that he didn't get enough reps at offensive tackle where he probably belonged to make that transition to the NFL. I mean, look, offensive tackle, people don't understand offensive tackle and center are vastly different positions. You have to be really acute. You have to be really in tune with what the defense is doing at center. It's a very different motion, the snap step motion that you have to do to play center. You have to be able to snap the ball deep. It's just fundamentally a very different position. So you really need a lot of reps to do them differently. That's my opinion. LSU's got in the portal, we're still looking at needs. We're talking needs. I think the guy that's interesting that they pulled today is Jack Pyburn. Now, obviously, the big need for LSU is edge rusher. And on paper, he's listed as an edge. Jack Pyburn was an outside linebacker for Florida. By the way, 60 tackles this year. Bounced back from a torn ACL. Gritty player. I mean, he will take on a block with no fear. You love to see that. But where does Jack Pyburn fit in this defense? Is he an edge rusher? Is he an outside linebacker? What are they going to do with Jack Pyburn?
I think you put him at the edge and see what he can do from there. He's kind of like that jack role where he can do multiple things on that defense. He's really versatile, but I think you've seen the way that Coach Baker likes to work those edge rushers. We saw with Braden Swinson, Savion Jones. We'll see what they can do with him, but I think that that's going to be a tone setter right there on the side to really make an impact there and get in the backfield. He's uber talented. Like you said, 60 tackles on the year, bounced back from that injury. So I've been impressed watching minimal, we'll say film, but some highlights from him here and there, kind of getting some analysis on him. And he's super energetic. He's fun to watch. And it'd be cool to watch him and Weeks play alongside each other because they're both super, super talented, energetic guys who aren't afraid to get in the backfield and lower their shoulders. So it's a nice tandem that they've got there as well. You got some other defensive pieces that you're going to work with as well. But Pyburn is a really good guy. And then Jamari Butler's a slept-on piece, man. I know he's not a top 100 player. I know a lot of people aren't really talking about him as much. But, man, Jamari Butler is a really, really talented player that I think if you put him in that developmental system with Davis and Peoples, man, I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he could be a really impactful piece in 2025.
He's, of course, talking about the edge rusher out of Nebraska. One thing I have a question about with this portal ranking system, first off, I think whichever service develops a truly well-done rating system for the portal, I think there's going to be massive market gain on them. Of course, we got plenty of players trying their best. It's like there's only 2-star ratings for the portal. It's like 3 or 4 stars. So I don't really know what to make of that, especially considering, you'll have top 100 players who are 3 stars. Right. Anyways, does eligibility play a role in this? Is a highly coveted freshman guy like Michael Van Buren, is he inflated in the rankings because of how many years he has left? Because he's got 4 years to play 3, which, by the way, Michael Van Buren, love that pickup. Somebody had a comment on Michael Van Buren earlier. Why did they double cross Colin Hurley? Well, that's a strongly worded comment. I'm not so sure that they did double cross Colin Hurley. I think that they're just bringing 2 guys in and they're saying, hey, look, man, we needed depth. We didn't sign a quarterback this year. They might sign the kid who's committed to UNC currently, but Belichick's in town there, so we'll see. He did sign. He ended up signing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then you're probably not getting a quarterback in this class at all. So, it's one of those deals like, Colin, this is the youngest kid we could bring in. We need another player here.
It's competition. We live in an era right now where
right.
people want to shy away from competition and whatnot. I'm not sure if Colin Hurley is going to be that guy that does that. Who knows what's in store for him in the future? But what we do know is that he enrolled at LSU at 16 years old, turned 17 years old, and is still only 17 years old, wrapping up his first season of college football. He's a young player who has a really high ceiling. We'll see if he can reach it, but he's a player with tremendous arm talent, very strong lower body. He's continuing to live in the weight room. We'll see what happens with him in the future. But, man, it is a challenging situation because Van Buren is obviously so talented, that SEC starting role with Mississippi State. I know a lot of people are going to sit back and say, well, it's Mississippi State. They were terrible this year. And they were terrible. Like, they were. But
Awful.
Still, to get that experience under your belt is so, so important. And I think it's great. You have Nussmeier, and then you have two players who can battle it out for that second spot in Hurley and Van Buren. And I know some people are going to want to talk about Swan. I'm not going to talk about Swan.
I'm tired of talking about Swan because he's a good kid. He did nothing wrong. He's probably smart, probably keeps his house clean and is respectful to people, all the good things. But he hasn't shown me anything on the field yet. That's all I'm going to say. So I hope not to talk about him just because I don't want to say anything mean.
Same.
I hope next time I talk about him is because he made us all look dumb with some dimes. Okay. Anyways, he's one of those kids where don't just judge him by the stat line. Some people might look at it 53% complete, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Van Buren. And then he ran for 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns, right? But he had negative yards rushing. So you can't really take much away from that. In terms of him being a good runner. That being said though, dude, plug in the highlight tape. Go watch some of these throws he's making.
Watch that damn Georgia game.
Look at the Georgia game. Look at the throws he's making. These are dots. I'm telling you, the kid has potential, and I'm not saying he will beat out Hurley for sure, but that's a good young player to bring in. That's a good reaction to losing Bryce Underwood. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you having him on your roster is a better situation than having Bryce Underwood, because that would be me blowing smoke up your ass.
Correct.
You're never going to come on this show and feel like I'm giving you good news about LSU just to feel good about LSU so you can go. No, you're going to know it's legitimate good news and how good. I'm not going to blow it out of perspective, but that's a good player that you can bring in and to develop. I want to throw some context onto his numbers. Number one, Mississippi State wasn't a good situation this year. It's first year head coach. It's their third coach in 3 years. Instability with the portal. Y'all know how that goes. Jeff Lebby's system is a bit of, it's not a simple system. It's his first year out there. What kind of athletes was he throwing to, and what kind of athletes was he throwing against? Right. So all that to be said, I liked a lot of bringing in Michael Van Buren. I think that's a pretty darn solid pickup. So you needed a young quarterback, and you did just that. I felt LSU also needed some DBs. Now, LSU brought in a good one today. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to get to our first ad break, but then we'll come back and we'll talk about the 2 DBs they brought in the portal and talk about specifically that corner position. But first, I'm going to talk to y'all about Celebrity Theaters and their weekday specials. Of course, Monday is $5 admission for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday, you get discounted movie tickets and concessions all day for everyone. Wednesday is their arcade night, where you get half-priced arcades and $5 movie tickets for anybody with a college ID. And Thursday is their discounted beer, wine, and frozen drinks after 5 p.m. Let's see here. I also got to talk to y'all about Struby's, man. Whew. This is Mike's favorite steak on the screen here, the bone-in ribeye. It's really good. I had a little bit of it. I always avoid it because that's just too darn big for me, man. So I go with the Wagyu New York strip. I went there the other day, and oh my gosh, it's incredible, y'all. All TigerBait live shows are proudly brought to you this football season by Struby's seafood and steaks. Located on 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in its food and service you're just not going to see from just any old corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA prime Black Angus steaks, certified Wagyu New York strip. And for those looking for something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. Boy, Kenny Haynes, the official attorney of TigerBait.com, is out there with a party of his friends tonight. I can't wait to hear back from that group and hear how good things went with them. Let's hear from Genesis of Lafayette, and we'll be right back. Oh my goodness, man.
Drive in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GV70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive owner incentive, plus finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
There's a reason they sell more than any other Genesis dealer in Louisiana. For the very best buyer experience of a new or luxury SUV or sedan, call them toll-free to set up your test drive, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
Transform your health journey with Rejuvame Medical. Discover the personalized treatment plans with weight loss medications and hormone therapy designed just for you. Begin a new you at RejuvameMedical.com. All righty. Let's get to some questions here. And look, you best believe Zach and I have a list of names. We could just sit here and rattle all day talking to you about these guys, but I want to engage a little bit. What's the point of a live show? Any coaching news or not till after the bowl game? Yeah, I would assume it's going to be pretty quiet on that front till after the bowl game. There's lots of rumors and whispers about maybe guys get shuffled around. You know, of course, Nagel's gone, so maybe they use that as an opportunity to, shuffle things up on the offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, I'm not expecting anything till the bowl game, right, Zach?
No, I would expect that stuff to kind of pop out after the bowl game. We'll see what changes they make. It was an interesting 2024 season. I would assume not many people's jobs are safe, but some are. So we'll see what happens there.
Let's see here. Van Buren played an absolute murderer's row in the SEC and played as a true freshman. Look, let's talk about that. I mean, you go down the schedule that they had to play this year, and look, he looked good against Georgia and Ole Miss. I mean, he threw for 280 against Ole Miss. He had 300 in another game. Was it Arkansas? Yeah, Arkansas. He threw for 300 in. So, just saying, there's a lot of, in sports, we hate to make excuses for guys. You're an SEC athlete, go win games, but
as a true freshman, I mean, it's nearly impossible, man, especially the quarterback position. I mean, it's brutal. So I don't look at the numbers and really judge him based off that. Like you said, run the tape. And when you run the tape, there's a lot to work with him. And for him to be willing to sit back for a year and eventually be the heir to Garrett Nussmeier, it's a fantastic situation for him to be in. We've seen the development that LSU has at the quarterback position. Obviously, the proof is in the product, and Van Buren wants to be one of those guys who can be up next. So we'll see what ultimately happens there. But, yeah, he's certainly an interesting one.
Well, and let's put it like this. Remember Chris Gordy was on the show last week, y'all? I'm talking to the audience, not Zach. Obviously, Zach wasn't here because he was slacking. I don't know, going to some wedding in New York or something whimsical like that. And he was talking about how he thought it was strange that Jackson Arnold was visiting Mississippi State because he was like, man, I really like what they have. And Michael Van Buren, they should stick with that guy. And then lo and behold, the next day he enters the portal and then, hey, here he is. What better experience to go through than play for one of the worst teams and go through all those struggles and take your talent and learnings to better talent around him. That's from Esteban, one of our first supporters of the TigerBait Live content. Yeah, that's a very good point. The only thing I worry about kids like that is you don't want a Jarrett Lee kid where it's just so awful and such a rough showing that it really kills your confidence and makes you gun shy the rest of your career. I don't think it was that bad for him. I think it was a pretty good going as a true freshman there. Let's see here.
We got to talk about these defensive backs too. I'm excited.
Dude, we do. I'm just trying to see if we have any good comments since I've been kind of comment shy here. All right, here's a good question. Ask Preston and Zach, what's going on with Jacoby Matthews? I have got a feeling he will end up in BR. That's been really quiet, hasn't it?
It has been. I'm not sure how much he's on LSU's radar right now. Obviously, he didn't play a season of football this year in 2024. It'll be interesting to see if they kind of go and attack him as a depth piece after sitting out for the season. But they're big game hunting right now. They're going after some big heavy hitters right now. I'm not quite sure Jacoby Matthews is on that radar right now. We'll see what happens. Obviously, he didn't wants to be here, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
He didn't play football this year, right? He was like at BRCC getting his grades correct.
I believe that's correct. Correct.
Well, that's also another layer to this is, are his grades actually in line yet? Because the semester's not over yet. It very well may be an issue that he has to go get his grades right. And then even before he can even talk to coaches, and coaches might not even be interested until they know for sure. Because at this point, in this era, you're talking about bringing in players. You gotta put resources, both time and money, into these guys to actually get them to come to school. And if you don't even know if a guy's got reps available in him, why? And I think Matthews is a good prospect for sure. I don't know that he's so good that you have to forfeit your ability to go after other safeties who 100% are going to be available, such as Tafiq Bayard, for him, right? And there's a kid from Jacksonville State there.
Yeah, pull up that comment from Bo at 840. That safety from Jacksonville State is firmly in play still. I had the opportunity to catch up with him last week, Zechariah Poyser. This is a guy who is the number 2 rated safety in the portal right now. And he's got some heavy hitters going at him right now. He's got LSU, Florida, Miami, Georgia, Auburn. Those are his final 5 right now. LSU got a visit, but so did the other schools. He was at LSU on Wednesday, went and checked out Auburn the next day, Florida, Georgia, and then he wrapped it up with Miami on Sunday. So I had the opportunity to sit back and talk with him for a few minutes, and it sounds like he's going to try to come to a decision either late tomorrow or Wednesday. LSU's firmly in the mix for him right now. But Miami's also there, and so is Florida. He's a Sunshine State kid, so those Florida schools are heavily in play right now, and then Georgia's resume speaks for itself. So he has a firm 5 right there that are really swinging for the fences for him. LSU's not out of play. We'll see what happens there. But Zechariah Poyser is certainly a guy that is still on LSU's radar and is closing in on a decision in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Now, I wanna highlight the whole decision within 24, 48. A lot of times these decisions are made and then like paperwork will get in the way. So I would always add 24 hours to whatever estimate these kids are telling you. But that's just what I'm hearing is it's a little bit more of a painstaking process than it used to be. Let's see here. All right. S. Young, discuss the Bama coach that accused Ole Miss of publicly tampering. My overall take on, and I don't even have his exact quote in front of me, but my overall take on any tampering accusations is that's soft. It's soft. Okay, man. You know who else is tampering? 132 FBS teams. Okay. Everybody's tampering. Everybody's breaking the rules with NIL money. It is the inmates running the penitentiary right now in the NIL world. I don't care if you say someone's tampering. I don't. Deal with it, adjust, and adapt. I mean, look, you think players aren't tampering with LSU's roster? It's one of those things. You're awfully naive if you think that tampering is actually a problem that you
It's a
should
new era,
complain
man.
about.
Like this is what it is. Every single school is tampering, and even if they're not making direct communication with the players, these kids have agents now. You have people reaching out to their agents and doing it
Right.
that way to kind of get around the quote unquote system. What's the saying? Adapt or die is
Right.
pretty much what it is.
Evolve
So
or
if you're not adapting to the times and tampering, you're going to get left behind and left in the dust. So
yeah.
every school is doing it, and I'll leave it at that.
Would you say that is incendiary, inflammatory, maybe flammable? I can't think of the word for Bama. Anyways, not to bring up another show's shpick. LSU landed a really good corner today. A guy, you watched the film on this guy. His name is Mansour Delane. And he's played in 33 games, 146 tackles in his career. He was a freshman All-American. And watch the film on Mansour Delane. This kid tackles. Physical player. That's one of the things I was going to mention about the two guys they brought in today. Physicality in the film. And frankly, I think that's what LSU's defense has been missing since 2019. Who's the guy truly lowering a shoulder and taking on blocks aggressively on this defense? Weeks. I mean, name a guy for the last 4 years who's been that guy. And these guys,
you and I have talked about this for 2 years now, is the fact that you want to get some dogs in there, and they just haven't had that many. And Blake Baker said it himself. He doesn't want poodles. He wants dogs and whatnot. So it comes with the territory. And now you go and get somebody like Mansour Delane, who, like you said, 146 tackles across 3 years, double-digit pass breakups, 6 interceptions. 4 of them came this year. He kind of had his quote-unquote coming out season this year. So Mansour Delane is a player, man. That's my favorite. That's probably one of, if not my favorite signing so far. This is a guy who's an absolute gamer and a Swiss Army knife in the defensive backfield too, Preston. He will not just play cornerback. He will be all over the place. So to go out and get him on campus, and he was set to go take another visit to Ole Miss. For them to shut that down and get him to remain here and sign with the program, obviously they'll announce that once it goes through compliance and stuff like we talked about a couple minutes ago. But for him to shut things down, it's tremendous. This is a player who's a Swiss Army knife who can do a lot. He's the number 2 cornerback in the portal for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him. But you need some dogs in the defensive backfield and just on the defense alone, and you got one in Mansour Delane for sure.
Great work by Corey Raymond to bring in some dogs this year, because not only him, but you got Jakeem Jackson from Florida, who's a pretty good player. He got injured this year, but all of a sudden you're talking about guys who you have confidence in to be your starting corner, and you're not even really talking about your returning starting corner as one of those guys, Ashton Stamps, frankly. And that shows how good a job they've done. Not to write off Ashton Stamps. I'm just telling you, if you had to give me odds, he would probably be 4th best odds to be a starting corner.
I can work with that. I think ultimately you're going to have to slide Stamps over to the nickel and see what you can do there. But, man, these newcomers that Corey Raymond's bringing in, I mean, these are tremendous gets. Like we just talked about, Mansour Delane, you hit on Jakeem Jackson, and then this doesn't even include the number 1 cornerback in America in DJ Pickett, who's set to come in, the number 1 cornerback in Louisiana, Aiden Anding. Both of those 2 players put pen to paper earlier this month. So you have 4 key pieces coming in, and you put them alongside 2 guys like PJ Woodland as well, Ashton Stamps. You have a cornerback room that suddenly is really, really turning around in the blink of an eye, and you're starting to see that quote-unquote DBU tradition, that DBU culture slowly making its way back to Baton Rouge. And it all starts with the recruiting efforts of Corey Raymond, man. He is knocking out of the park, swinging for the fences, and he's making contact on just about every ball that's coming across the plate.
I mean, absolutely. He's been involved early and often on a lot of guys. Between Jakeem Jackson and Mansour Delane and DJ Pickett, I feel really good about those guys and getting 1 or 2 very good elite corners. I feel pretty good about that. There's questions on all of them. Is DJ Pickett going to be ready as a true freshman? Is he, there's people who question whether he's a corner or safety, which I don't think is that bad of a question. I mean, he's longer and taller, but I think that's kind of the trend with corners nowadays. There's questions, is Jakeem Jackson going to recover from injury? Well, I mean, we saw guys like J.K. Johnson who were highly recruited, and he didn't do diddly squat while he was here in LSU for 2 years, partially because he was constantly hurt. And then there's questions about, Matt Delane in can he keep up with SEC play? Because there's guys like Deuce Chestnut was one of the 2 guys who ended up being a starter leaving LSU last year.
Goodness. Forgot about Deuce Chestnut.
Well, he balled out for Syracuse this year. He was really good. So I think that's a strong argument that a lot of times just because you're good in the ACC doesn't mean you're good in the SEC.
It doesn't always translate. It's a whole different ballgame. You're in the NFL of college football over here. So it's interesting.
That's Young with a funny super chat here. Since you're okay with tampering, let's pay some Underwood money to get Caleb Downs to enter the portal to go to LSU. Number one, I'd like to address my original assumption was that money for Underwood was pledged for Underwood, not into the. But no, I'm told they didn't have money specifically pledged for Underwood.
It's allocated to the whole fund.
Right, but they're using that money wisely. There was no billionaire who had wrote a blank check for LSU to come get a kid who didn't want to be on your team anyways to come be on your team. It was just a handsome deal, a deal that met his value, and he wanted to be here, so there wasn't this real aggressive push to push it higher. But the money's still there, but they're using that right now on good quality players. I don't know that they want to blow it on one player. I think that's been every time we talk about these kids in the portal and who they're getting, they don't want to overpay for Cade Phillips because they don't think, one player is worth it. Micah Hudson is a similar situation where it's like he was starting to get blank checks, and it's like, look, man, we're going to use our funds to go get good players. You're not so good that you're better than the next best corner, the next a linebacker that we need, and a defensive lineman. We'll get those 3 and you'll have a good time at Texas or wherever you go. So look, no, I don't care if they tamper with Caleb Downs and that's what they choose to do. I just don't know that that's their strategy that they're going for.
Well, speaking of strategy, we know Brian Kelly's talked time and time again about wanting to build through the high school ranks and not necessarily the portal. Obviously, here we are doing pretty well in the portal and kind of building in that regard. Do you think we could see the program kind of shift their dynamic, not necessarily to the Ole Miss perspective of how they kind of just go balls to the walls with the portal? I mean, that's it. They don't really recruit too much from the high school ranks. They go all the way in with the portal. Do you think we could see kind of like LSU start to take that approach or kind of divvy it 50-50, 60-40? Do you think there could be a change there? Is kind of like, because somebody asked me that earlier today and I was like, you have to find a balance. You recruit the high school ranks for the long term, and then you kind of go in the portal for the short term. So I was just kind of wanted to get your thoughts to see what you thought about all that. It's
a good question. I think you have to do both.
Because you and I kind of talked about it. We texted a little bit about it, talking about this new era of NIL. It's a little bit different. Yeah. Can LSU adapt? We're seeing them adapt. Kind of wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think LSU is at a point. So first off, I think revenue sharing is really going to change this discussion quite a bit because LSU makes enough money through its athletics department. It's always going to hit the cap, whatever the cap is for revenue sharing. It's going to hit that. Okay. I mean, it's top 5 revenue generated through athletics departments in the country, right? It's fine. Right. I wonder how many years we're going to be talking about this collective situation. That's my first thought is next year going to be the last year where they're even able to use a collective to get players? And then it's going to be less about getting people to donate money to collectives and finding ways to get the right players that money, whatever. Okay. It's going to be more based around how can you organize businesses to invest in players, right?
Right.
Larry Ellerby's not going to be able to come and make a donation out of his personal account and go get a recruit anymore. It's going to have to be Oracle saying, how do we get quid pro quo out of this kid? How does Michigan organize Oracle to do that? And does Oracle, would Larry Ellerby rather be the face of this donation, or would Oracle, because if it's a business donation, Larry Ellerby can't do it. Has to be Oracle doing it. Or insert whatever billionaire. Todd Graves can't privately do this anymore. He has to do it through Canes, which he doesn't do through Canes. But again, there's risks of that, because if Canes does it instead of a private donation from Todd Graves, right? Does Canes then look bad? Because, well, Canes got Bryce Underwood to go to LSU. Well, then all the Michigan Canes is shut down because everybody boycotts them. I think there's a lot of interesting discussions in terms of where this is going to go in the future. And I think realistically, legislation is going to really change this conversation in a big way. But if you're asking me where the staff's mission goes forward, if things stay the same, I would say they're still going to be more invested in the freshman class. But I think that they've learned a lesson from this year that, look, you can't just rely on your recruiting and then say, nah, we don't need the portal. Look, how'd that go for you?
Exactly.
You bought an 8-4 roster. You got an 8-4 team.
Correct. And that's why I think it's important to maybe split it 70-30, 60-40. You got to go get those immediate impact guys through the portal. I think that's Brian Kelly's new kind of quote unquote strategy. We'll see what he does moving forward. But this year, from a recruiting perspective, man, like you're knocking it out the park. I know the Bryce Underwood thing is an outlier, and Cade Phillips, man, I would have loved to have seen him come here, man. Like I think he's going to be such a talented player with Texas. But at the end of the day, you can use those funds and do what you're doing right now and get, as of right now, the number one portal class in the country. So it's an interesting approach. I just wanted to pick your brain to see what you were thinking about.
Yeah,
well.
I think ultimately it might be 60-40 recruiting, getting the 60 portal, getting the 40. But that being said, you'll bring in 25 through the class and probably 15 through the portal moving forward. You're probably going to see the new norm is probably going to be, 40 players coming in every year.
Yeah, I would say half your roster, just fresh faces. It's a crazy landscape we're in, man.
Unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
I wonder. I don't think we've quite seen a downturn yet, but how sustainable is that for building fans in college football? Can you bring in 40 players a year and, by, law of losses and gains, can you lose 40 players a year and sustain viewerships? I mean, are the casual fans going to be able to keep up with that? It's a huge question, in my opinion.
I don't even know if it's just about fans, man. Like, I think at the same time, you're looking at what happened with Marshall. They just won the Sun Belt Conference Championship, and they can't even field a team for a bowl game. I think there's a lot of different ins and outs that need to be taken here. You can't even field a team for a bowl game. You have teams that are in the playoffs right now that are having kids enter the portal. It's a unique time right now. There's a lot of things that need to be worked out. But let's look at that super chat.
Thank you for the super chat, S. Young. Jay Johnson is the portal king. Too bad BK doesn't allocate enough for defense. I don't know that that's the case, at least this year. Maybe last year there's a strong argument. Maybe the year before there was a very strong argument for that. But look at who they're bringing in. In the portal, 4 of your 7 so far are on defense. Mansour Delane, Jakeem Jackson, Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler. These aren't guys who were just cheap pieces. And in the recruiting class, if you had to guess who the highest paid player in this recruiting class, would you guess? Would it be DJ Pickett?
In the recruiting class, it is DJ
Probably.
Pickett. No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, DJ Pickett for sure is your highest. So I don't know that. And I would say at this point, the defensive players they brought in, I think, are better than the offensive players in terms of the class they brought in. Am I crazy? I don't know.
That could change rather quickly.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about the freshmen.
Yeah. Oh, then yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I'd have to go down and do a complete breakdown. But I mean, look, man, losing Bryce Underwood, that was a massive blow. Anyways, I don't know that. But thank you for the super chat. I'm not trying to bash you or anything, S. Young. I just I see your concerns and I understand where they're coming from. I just don't know that they're necessarily true. Someone mentioned Solomon Thomas. Bo, from what I'm talking to people, Solomon Thomas did not ask for this massive pay day from LSU, which, by the way, we're talking about guys who might start on the offensive line. We're gonna talk a little bit when I get back from the ad break about offensive line and whether I thought they needed to go more aggressive, but maybe I'm hearing a little bit of mixed results on that. Solomon Thomas probably your highest paid on offense. Maybe Harlem Berry is higher paid, but he did not take a mess. He wanted to be at LSU. Everything I'm told, he's an excellent kid. His mother had health issues and wanted him to stay in Florida, but she selflessly said, baby, this is your best fit. This is where you belong. Go to LSU. And LSU loved Swimson. He's I hear what you're saying, but do we really know Solomon Thomas made more money than DJ Pickett? Are we just going off the on three estimated value?
Yeah, no, when it comes to these increments of money, I'm not 100% sure when it comes down to it. My assumption and my gut would tell me that it was DJ Pickett.
Yeah.
But who knows? Solomon Thomas
Right.
is a late addition. Obviously flipped him from Florida State on signing day, but I'm fairly certain DJ Pickett's getting quite the payday.
Yeah, and look, this is just guesses. Look, I'm just going to tell you, it wasn't flip money that brought Solomon Thomas. It was a combination of Florida State going 2-10 this year, and
having an offensive line coach,
his right, and his family falling in love with LSU. I have talked with people directly. I don't think it was a massive flip payday. They didn't use Bryce Underwood's contract to, pay him a ton of money. I don't think that was the situation at all. Not from what I'm told. So I believe I would guess DJ Pickett was still the highest paid player, but of course I don't have those numbers. It's more speculative. Anyways, guys, let's get to an ad break. We're going to come back and get to your ads. We're going to talk about the offensive line situation for LSU. But first, I got to talk to y'all know who makes this show possible each and every year. It's our title sponsor, Celebrity Theaters. Guys, remember, they host private events. So whether you're looking for a corporate party, arcade party, taking your class to the movies like my mom did the other day, guys, they've got you ready to go, taken care of. Visit celebritytheaters.com/events or send them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com, to get your private event booked. Don't forget to mention TigerBait. Tell them Preston sent you by. Let's see here. Guys, one thing we try to do with all of our sponsors is partner with locally owned businesses we've been to firsthand. We know we can endorse to provide an outstanding experience to our listeners. Capital City Grill fits that perfectly. Located at 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for a casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafoods, pastas, steaks, and more, with everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net. Make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. And guys, if you're looking at that hat behind me, let's see if I can put this on here. Y'all already know the best place to shop if you're a Tiger fan. If you're looking at that hat behind me, it's Alumni Hall. Guys, whether you're looking for the best polo, you're looking for Peter Millar gear, Yeti, gifts, accessories, guys, Alumni Hall's got you taken care of. They got it all. They've got, the Christmas gear coming in. As you see the Santa hat behind me, you can go get yours. And look, you can save 10% on it all with the promo code TigerBait. All one word, TigerBait, in store or online, and you're going to save 10% off your order. Free shipping on all orders over $99. And guys, look, they've got the Hall Pass Rewards program where every $150 you spend, you're going to earn $10 back for every reward. If you like those gold jerseys LSU wore a couple weeks ago, they've got plenty of those ready to go, and promo code still works for it. By the way, did you see Baylor's wearing white jerseys?
I don't even want to talk about it because I know Moscona and Hunt and everybody, they're not going to be very happy with what happens with the jerseys.
No doubt.
Madness.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's on. That's on.
You think they wear yellow? I doubt it. No, I bet you they go purple.
Purple or something. I don't even know.
Probably purple. Purple, white, if I had to guess. But what do I know? Let's see here. Preston, they said they wanted 10 out of the portal. We have 7 and a couple names to watch for. Is there, aside from Nick Anderson, Braylon Moore, Jacoby Matthews, to watch from? There are. I'm also going to tell you this. I know for a fact the coaches are willing to be patient and see what comes up. Tight end from ULL. What's his name?
Terrence Carter.
Terrence Carter. Excellent player. A little undersized. They like him a lot, but from what I understand, he's asking for a lot of money from teams in the portal. And I guess the way that goes is if there's a team that needs a tight end and you knock on the right door, eventually someone's going to overpay for you. That's my understanding here. But they do need a tight end. I think they need offensive line. I was talking to Mike today about it. I was like, Mike, don't you think they need 3 or 4? Well,
maybe 2.
Maybe 2 is kind of what I'm getting. And they're willing, from what I'm being told, they don't really like the people in the portal that they're seeing. Brad Davis has come out, or he didn't come out, but I'm hearing Brad Davis has evaluated and he saw that the kid from Virginia Tech he liked. And he likes him as a true center, and that way you can slide DJ Chester out into a guard role, which he might be better fit for, which we love DJ Chester, but he didn't have a good look at center this year. You need some improvement at the center position. Well, then you're looking at your roster and you're like, well, who's coming back? Dude, there's more offensive linemen than you would think. Just because you struggled at depth at times a year ago, you struggled at guard depth, which sliding DJ Chester to guard would kind of help. Look, you're starting to look at who are the guys who might step up. First off, you're going to get a better look in the bowl game because Will Campbell's not playing. And is Emory Jones playing the ball? I don't think Emory Jones is playing the ball game. So you're going to have 2 new tackles. Do you possibly see Tyree Adams step up? We'll see. Do you possibly see Bo Bordelon step up? Weston Davis is a guy to keep an eye on. Ori Williams is another guy who plays offensive tackle. Massive body, 6'8". But from what I understand, he's got some baby fat to develop and needs some time to develop. Same thing with Ethan Callaway, big-bodied guys, but a lot of big-bodied guys aren't used to the speed of the SEC, and it just takes some time. But you're going to have to look at Cohen and Coles. Where is he going to be your backup center? Is he going to stay there? We'll see, but they do have a lot of guys. Paul Mabinga is a guy who struggled mightily early on, but they really liked the reps they got out of him. So we've named a few guys who might be ready to step up. Then you're talking about Solomon Thomas. Does Solomon Thomas possibly come in and compete for a role as a true freshman?
Yeah, I mean, look, you got a ton of guys in the mix right now that you can work with. Carius Kern is also a player that Brian Kelly highlighted and said that he expects him to come in and be a day one immediate impact guy. So when it comes to the portal, yeah, you want to go get some savvy, experienced veterans, just like somebody like Braylon Moore would be fantastic to get in the mix. But at the end of the day, you don't need 4 of them, and you don't want to waste all these scholarships on offensive linemen when you really have some players that can step in immediately, right, like a Carius Kern, like a Solomon Thomas, like you alluded to. Not to mention former 5-star Weston Davis. Tyree Adams has sat back patiently. And then you have DJ Chester who could slide back to the guard. You have an embarrassment of riches up front. It's just about continuing to have them kind of develop in order to be ready for the SEC. Because like you said a second ago, it's not easy to get thrown in the fire and succeed. Yeah. We saw that with Mabanga in 2024. So let these guys get some snaps under their belt. The bowl game is going to be really important for this program. And then you work from there and move on. But from a portal perspective, I'd expect 2 offensive linemen to be taken. And hopefully we can see one of them pop sooner rather than later in Braylon Moore, who could really be your starting center in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if they bring in just Braylon Moore, I'm starting to look at it. It's not like they didn't bring in freshmen this year. I mean, they brought in a hitter's crew. There's no doubt about it. And of course, another super chat here for S. Young. S. Young, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your persistent super chats here, supporting our show, supporting local journalism here at TigerBait.com. LSU better get 1 or 2 top safeties if they want to compete. Safety is the weakest room unless we're going to convert some CBs to safety. Number 1, the back end of your comment, I don't know that that's out of the realm of possibility. I think we teased a little bit on that. Zach, do you think that's the weakest room in the building for LSU safety?
I certainly think it's up there. I think when you look at the positions of need heading into the portal season, it was wide receiver was 1. You got Barry and Brown right now. You could potentially see another one pop sooner rather than later. Offensive line, you could potentially get more, and that's a key piece. Tight end, you got one. Hopefully you can get another one. Cornerback, you've hit that with force now. And then you look at the safety room. For me, I could get behind that. I could definitely get behind the fact that that's probably the weakest room right now. You have a guy like Zechariah Poyser who's in the mix, and then a couple of other guys like the guy that they're hosting from South Florida today. And then that last comment there is flipping some cornerbacks to safety. And you talked about that a couple of minutes ago, whether it's DJ Pickett, Mansour Delane. You have some versatile defensive backs that could play all around in multiple positions. But when you're looking strictly at the term safety and the guys that are on the roster as safeties, it might be the thinnest room on the team right now.
And by the way, I do like switching a corner who struggles a little bit in man-to-man coverage to safety a lot of times. Jalen Mills was a good example of a good swap there. Tyrann Mathieu made the swap pretty well. It's a lot easier to go from corner to safety than it is from safety to corner. But, ultimately there's two guys I feel pretty good about in LSU's room here. That's Deshaun Spears and Jordan Gilbert. Of course, Sage Ryan will not be back next year. He entered the portal. I'm probably going to get a lot of likes on that comment here. Not trashing Sage Ryan, but
I can't believe you said that about Jordan Gilbert, to be honest with you.
I'm not writing him off yet. I'm not. There were some things I liked out of him this year. There's a lot I didn't like. But frankly, what DB can't you say that about LSU this year? Maybe
safety room,
maybe Zy Alexander was the one where you're like, he was pretty good, but it was a pretty bad defensive backfield. You got to enhance that in a big way. They've done that at corner. They need to do that at safety. They've got multiple safeties they're in conversations with. I think we're looking at a pretty big upgrade. And then, I think there's a chance DJ Pickett might give you a good look at free. We'll see. I mean, Deshaun Spears, am I off basis saying I'm not ready to write him off yet?
I love Deshaun Spears.
Yeah.
I really wished he would have gotten some more reps under his belt this year. I know earlier we were talking about physicality and whatnot, and there were some times where he wasn't as physical as maybe he needed to have been. But I just your safety play. I mean, Jordan Gilbert was not very good this year. Sage Ryan was not very good this year. He looked better than he has in times past. And then Major Burns, I'm not sure there's much more that needs to be said when you're talking about the safety room. I mean, they just weren't that great this year. And then you look to get an upgrade, like you were talking about. Let Deshaun Spears get some reps under his belt and bring in some newcomers and have them step into the mix. I think you have the chance to really upgrade that safety room like you were talking about.
Yeah, you need to upgrade your whole defense. You need to upgrade your whole defense. There's not a position on this defense that didn't need a major infusion of talent in a big kind of way. And, you talked about this coaching staff a year ago, and they came in. They did not go to the portal and completely revamp this defense, and you saw what you would expect of an improved coaching staff with the same horrible players that were historically bad a year ago. Now, when I say horrible players, I mean their play on the field was horrible in 2023. And it's those same players coming back. They got coached a little better. You saw a few guys step up and play better. I mean, even Sage Ryan was a little better. Whit Weeks was a good bit better. I don't know that Harold Perkins was much better in his time. But there were certainly, look at Swinson. I mean, Swinson, my God, what an improvement you saw under him. You bring in two edge rushers to address that. So ultimately, yes, you're correct. They have to address the safety room. I just more so am discussing the semantics of it. There's also some discussion as who's going to play the star back role. I'm having trouble thinking of, could it be Perkins next year? Who would you bet to be the favorite to be your starting star?
I mean, part of me wants to say if Javian Toviano sticks around, that's a name that you and I both talked about earlier in the year that we wanted to see him get on the damn field. You put
the last part of what you said, if he sticks around, that's kind of why I'm so damn hesitant to say his name there.
Like emphasis on if he sticks around. We've started bowl practices and he's still on the roster, so we'll see what happens there. But man, I think Javian Toviano is a player that, I mean, like I keep saying it over and over again, that's a player that you've talked about too, that you want to get on the field. And I'm fully behind you on that. So I would like to see him get in that star role if possible.
Yeah. So people are kind of not taking my side on that. So I understand Gilbert wasn't good this year. I'm just telling you, I'm not ready to write him off. He showed me some things where I'm like, okay. Someone brought up Carnell Hatcher. Boy, That like I don't
Oh,
know.
because that's because Steven Gilbert's easily the worst safety of the century for LSU.
Yeah, so
Not
Steven
good.
said he's worse this century. He's like, no, Carnell Hatcher. Oh God, I'm trying to think of the other guy who was really bad, got drafted by the Cowboys like in the 4th round, but he was so bad for LSU about the same time as Hatcher, maybe a little bit before him. But yeah, I've seen some pretty rough safeties. Also, is Gilbert worse than Sage Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it. Okay.
I can almost say that. Yeah. Yeah. I think Sage Ryan's better than Gilbert. Yeah.
At this point, can Perk play safety? Another super chat. Man, S. Young he said, I want to own this show tonight. And it is for
Put his
sale.
card on file, and he's just not stopping. Appreciate it.
Oh, my God. No, I appreciate all your support. Take it, Zach.
Do not put Perk at safety.
Yeah, do not. No.
Like
Star.
Like,
can we start with Star?
Put him at the star, maybe, but no. I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, I would almost be talking out of my behind. We'll keep it PG. I don't even know where you put Perk at this point. Hopefully he makes a decision to return back to LSU, of course. He still hasn't made that decision publicly or anything, but it's a challenging spot to see where you put him.
Yeah, and look, man, I mean, at a certain point, Perk has to make plays. I mean, he's been on the field. Middle linebacker is not like a position you put him at. And it's like, okay, if you're playing well, but you're going to turn into a role player. No, you're in the middle of the defense. If you're playing well, you will make tackles. You should not be as quiet as he was. So we will definitely see about all that. But ultimately, the big takeaway, guys, LSU is addressing some needs in a big kind of way. I think they're about halfway done with the portal. I know they've said 10. I'd be shocked if they end up at 10. I would be shocked if it's less than 12. Okay, let's put it like that. I also think they're going to wait till the spring window. They're going to look for some gems to come out late. Talking about sometimes guys lose position battles. Sometimes a coach leaves after the bowl game. Things happen.
In the playoff,
teams are still in the playoffs. That's a big one. Way more players are in the playoffs. Although Texas, I think I saw had double-digit players entering the portal.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know they had a defensive tackle today enter the portal, and a lot of people are like, "What's going on with Texas? They're in the playoffs. Stick around with a chance to win it all." By the way,
correct.
This is the widest open I think it's ever been in terms of. This is I predict this will be the worst national champion we've seen since 2007. And S. Young with another super chat. We are in safety purgatory right now. Kinda. I'll say this. It's not purgatory in the sense like the Saints are in purgatory right now because you have a god awful team that somehow won 5 football games, and because you didn't win enough, you don't get good enough players. But LSU can always decide to just go get better players at safety. It's not like you played too good. And now you're screwed. But anyways, thank you for the super chat again, S. Young. Guys, I appreciate y'all for watching the show here tonight. We went a little over our time here, but that's okay. We had a good show tonight, lots of viewers tonight, so I appreciate all y'all support. If you enjoyed the show, please hit like on the show to help our analytics go out there. Share it to your friends, whatever else. Drop a comment if you're not watching live. I appreciate all y'all for watching. Hit like. Beat Mike. We're going to see if we can get more likes than Mike for the first time in a billion years. Y'all make sure to go follow Zach on Twitter at ZNaggy20. A lot of Nagy bombs recently, man. Boy, you've been on it.
Appreciate it. It's a busy time, man. We're in the midst of hell. I mean, this is the busiest time. We are in the midst of just absolute madness, and I love it. I love seeing what LSU's doing with the roster. I love seeing what Brian Kelly's doing. He's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's really revamping this roster and reconstructing it, and hopefully we can get a bunch more Nagy bombs in the next couple of days as they continue to kind of put out some more players and make it public, because they've certainly got some guys on their radar that are definitely trending LSU's way.
I'd be shocked if some of the names we named tonight don't turn into Nagy bombs, so y'all make sure to give him a follow. Give me a follow at PGuy77 on Twitter. Wherever you're on social media, you can find that handle. Appreciate y'all for watching. We will be back next Monday night. We'll take a look at the basketball schedule and whatnot and see how that goes. And we'll start talking a little more Texas ball. We'll talk about the actual bowl game they play in 14 days. Is that right? 15 days. So we will be back then. I will see y'all soon. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for watching this show tonight.